Okay, we're live. This is Brother Wolf. This is HS 345, and we have another group presenting the case study, which is case study number 6, I believe, the break-even analysis. And whenever you guys are ready, I'll let you in.
Okay. All right. Well, we are group number 2, I believe. Denise Murphy, Cody Torgerson, Ian Humes, Kenzie Millarts, and Trevor Buck. My name is Ian, and I'm going to start off tonight. And what we wanted to do as a group is to start with, we wanted to get an idea of where we were or where the clinic was so that we could start making some projections. So, question 1 is using the historical data as a guide, try to construct a pro forma or a forecast moving forward. And so what we noticed in the data that we had provided with the with the assignment is that there were maybe 3 different ways we could look at it. So we had all this data from 2009, the entire year's worth of data from 2009. Then we also had 2 months of data from 2010. So we had January and February of 2010. So we thought that there was probably 3 ways we could look at it. So if we just use the data from 2009 and assuming that everything's going to even out through 2010 and it's going to be just status quo, based on that information, and the numbers show that the clinic was going to lose $116,000 a year that year for 2010. So the next step is we looked at just January and February. So January and February were pretty good months for some reason, and they had strong volumes there. And what we found is that if you did an average just based on those 2 months, then the clinic's projected to have an annual loss of $38,000 per year, or just over $3,000 a month. But that represents an 11.6% growth over 2009, and that felt maybe unsustainable. And so what we decided on is maybe a more conservative projection based on the average of the last 14 months. So what we did is we combined 2009 with the first 2 months of 2010 and created a 14-month average, and that projects a loss of 105,000 or a 1.7% growth over 2009. So based on that information, then this is just the detail of that information. So this is a first column is a projection for 2010, just based solely on the numbers from 2009. Then the middle column is January and February, using that as an average, and you can see the average for the last 14 months. So we felt more comfortable using the 14-month average. We felt like that was more of a historical data, we kind of felt like using that historical information just for January and February maybe was a little bit too short of a tail there to give you a true picture of what this clinic's looking like. So we decided to use the average for the last 14 months to do that. And so the next question is, now considering the clinic situation without a new marketing program, what's it going to take to break even, to make up that shortfall that you're having each month and by association each year? So based on that, if the clinic's able to generate a volume of 22 additional patients per day, it's going to hit the break-even point. That's without the new marketing program. So what we did is we took all the variable costs, the semi-variable costs, the semi-fixed costs and the fixed costs, combined those together, and we left out the fixed costs associated with the marketing person and the costs associated with the marketing, and that's how we came up with the additional 22 patients per day. Now, if you look at it with the marketing expenses, then if we add the marketing campaign, because it makes sense that we'd have to have the marketing campaign numbers in there, because we're not just going to magically increase our volume by 22 patients per day. So a more realistic number is probably factoring in these expenses associated with marketing. So if the marketing campaign is implemented, then obviously additional expenses are incurred, and we're going to add back in that $7,000 in fixed costs. So that moves our break-even point up to about 29 additional patients per day. So fairly large jump that we're going to have to accomplish there. And here's the cost breakdown. So you can see the net revenue in the top line. That's a little blurry. Sorry about that. The net revenue is in the top line of variable costs, which includes the additional cost for the supplies, and we also included the salaries and benefits in there, an average for the salaries and benefits. Then the semi-fixed costs is the salaries and the additional salaries and wages and the physician fees. And then the fixed costs are the marketing assistant salary and the advertising expenses. So you can see the projection there. So if we add an additional 10 patients per day, then we're still going to be $17,000 short. If you add an additional 20, then you're still almost $8,000 short. But if you have an additional 30 per day, then you make $1,700 a month in it. So the break-even point is a little bit less than 30 patients per day, which is at 29. If you drop down to 28, then you're still underwater. So we figured we'd round it off to an actual person, so it'd be a whole number. So we ended up with 29, which puts us at about $705 in profit each month. And the next question is regarding malpractice insurance, and I'll pass that off to Denise.
All right, so the question regarding the malpractice insurance divides the hospital's total annual insurance cost for per episode charge, and then per episode value is multiplied by each department's projected number of patients for each department cost. So the question says, does this allocation scheme bias your break-even analysis? And it's a yes. The cost of insurance is per patient. Therefore, the insurance cost increases when patient load increases, making it a variable cost and making it more difficult to reach a break-even point. The next slide talks about taxes, and a for-profit hospital, of course, must pay taxes. And the question asks us, what impact does tax status have on our break-even analysis? Well, paying taxes reduces your net income, making it harder to achieve that break-even point. However, this clinic is not generating, profits. So it doesn't really impact them, and it will, however, impact companies or hospitals or whatever businesses where profits do exceed costs. The next, the question 9 in our question sheet, it asks us, does the clinic have any value to the hospital beyond that considering by the numerical analysis just conducted? And but yes, it does add that value. It costs less for patients going to the urgent care, and there's fewer wait times at the urgent care, and these two factors alone will promote patient satisfaction. And it also helps the ER out, so it's not being overutilized, and it's not, wait times are not increased. It's or the ER is not overcrowding with yes, urgent things, but not necessarily emergencies. Also, in urgent care can influence that patient choice, and where you can maybe additional testing or a different procedure or something that may need to be used or may be needed for that patient that the urgent care may not have. Well, they can kind of, those physicians can kind of influence where they go to get those tests and those different procedures done, which would be in their hospital. The second question talks about another kind of entity that's going on with that Baptist hospital, where they are having primary care offices close by, and it asks if it has any bearing on their final decision regarding the clinic. And no, it doesn't, because as you see that the urgent care, it's different than, of course, the ER and a primary care. They're all just different entities, and they have different types of services, and they fit different populations' needs. Primary care, generally you make appointments, they're scheduled, they're usually with a specific doctor, and sometimes they're just even routine visits. Where urgent care, they're offered evenings, weekends, and generally always for walk-ins for those urgent and specific fast get well kind of things. So there just isn't really there shouldn't be that much overlap really with that community between a physician's office or a care facility, a primary care and an urgent care.
The other issue is they're also probably in different networks. So the Baptist Hospital and our clinic are probably not in the same network. So there may not be a lot of overlap because of the way the payer system works too.
Yes. All right, go ahead, Trevor.
All right, so looking at all the data that was given and to make our final recommendation for this clinic, we decided that they should go for it, that they should continue to keep the doors open and to invest in the new marketing strategy. Focusing more on the occupational health services can bring a different variety of services that they've never had before, and therefore increasing their additional visits that they need to be able to break even. Not only that, but then to make a profit each month. So yeah, we do highly recommend that it won't be easy, but definitely would be worth it, and definitely a challenge though. In the case study, there was a question given to Brent concerning inflation, and it says that Brent wonders if the clinic could inflate its way to profitability, given the volume remain the same, but could it expect it to become profitable in, say, 5 years? We said no, it wouldn't be able to be profitable just by inflation over the next 5 years, especially when you're keeping your volume the same. Everything else is going to increase. You're going to have increased costs, increased revenues, and expenses, and different things like that for running your clinic. And then in the end, Brent is concerned about whether or not the analysis gave the clinical full credit for its financial contributions to the hospital. He had to think about, he had to consider the different relevant factors, such as the quantitative and qualitative. And so things that he, you got to think about. Recommendation for him would be the demographics, knowing the population of the clinic and what the people that they'll be serving in that area. The different kind of business manufacturers around there can affect the different services that they give, and the kind of patient traffic that they receive as well, along with reimbursement for services and the possible contracts for services rendered, are all different factors that Brent would have to consider for all of this. That does end our presentation, though. Brother Wolf, we'll turn the time over back to you.
Excellent work. You guys were very thoughtful, and you brought up a lot of really good perspectives and ideas, and I think it's really going to add value to the class discussion. I don't want to get into too many of the details because it will be great for you to kind of compare and contrast what the other group did, and then kind of a discussion in the discussion board, as we mentioned before we started the presentation. So excellent work. And yeah, if you'll just post your slides, and then this message is mainly for the people who will be listening to this recording, because I've already shared it with this group. But now I want everyone to go and compare this presentation with the other group's presentation. Again, there's not necessarily a right and a wrong. It's really just more of different approaches, and maybe ask each group as you're thinking through for yourself, because each of you will have a written analysis that you'll be turning in, and you're allowed to be using both of these different approaches and as background and as knowledge to help you formulate your own opinion and your own analysis. So you're allowed to do all that as you kind of come up with the final written analysis that you turn in. So please, I ask you to kind of engage and ask the groups different questions. Maybe how did you do this? How did you come up with that? And those sorts of things. And the groups will also, in return, kind of ask questions and answer questions. So thank you to this group. Excellent work. And we'll see everybody in the discussion board. Thanks so much.
Thank you.